Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for being here today. My name is Wei, and I'm the Chief Product Officer at Talabat. It's my absolute pleasure to be here today. Unfortunately, this won't be a technical conversation because I really want to bring it back to what actually matters, right? Today, we see lots of very interesting technologies, lots of very interesting tech, lots of, blue sky thinking of what things we can do to really push the boundaries of the customer experience. But I really want to bring us back to what really matters, which is how we can obsess over our customers and really solve for problems that really matter. So what I really want to share is the transformation that Talabat has gone through over the last 2.5 years. And a bit about me. So I joined the company in March of 2020, just as the pandemic took a little turn. The day I joined was also the day we decided that the company was going to start working remotely and go into lockdown. So that was 2.5 years ago. And at the same time, we were going through a massive transformation where historically we've been a very operationally heavy company. We operate in all of these different markets in MENA, but we never fully leveraged the power of technology to scale up our organization, to scale up the way that we do deliveries, to scale up the way that we do groceries. And when I joined the company in 2020, it was also the calling for me to turn the company around and build the customer-obsessed way of thinking, the long-term product thinking. And what I want to share today is that journey. We have made a lot of mistakes along the way. Some things worked, some things didn't. And I would love to bring it back to share with you some of the things that we've learned over the last couple of years. So a bit about us. We have about 350 people in product and engineering and data and design in the MENA region. Our headquarters are here in Dubai, but we also have a tech hub in Egypt, Cairo. We have more than 50 nationalities inside of our tech hub, and we made a little map of where all of our different engineers and product managers come from, and it's really spread out from all across the different world. What I want to talk about today is something that you may not be able to relate to, and you might be wondering why I have a picture of a Toyota Corolla on here. Because we're all a bunch of techies. We're all here because we have some sort of tech background. We care a lot about different tech, different technologies that we use. But let me ask you a question, and this is why when I try and explain to people what I mean by a real product-led organization and a company that cares about the product that they build, I point to the Toyota Corolla. Because this is a product that no matter if you are a sales rep inside of a showroom, or the CEO of a company, of Toyota, you care a lot about the 2022 Toyota Corolla launch. You care that it has, the new AirPlay feature that is wireless. You care that it is the most fuel-efficient car and best in class. You care that it has an amazing safety rating. And there's an alignment from the guys on the ground all the way to the CEO that this is going to make or break the company. Now, my question to all of you is that why is it that when we talk about tech, we obsess over the specific technologies? We obsess if you're, a growth hacker about acquisition numbers, about, in many cases, vanity metrics that look good on an investor presentation, but isn't the thing that your customer actually cares about. So whenever I talk to a tech crowd in the MENA audience, I'm charging forward and encouraging everyone to remind ourselves that at the end of the day, what we produce is a product. And what we produce is a product that's there to solve real customer problems and real customer needs. And our job here is to use all of this amazing technology that you see here today to solve for real problems. So that's what we've been trying to do over the last 2.5 years with the technology that we're applying at Talabat, whether hardware or software. And how does that work? When we look at how the transformation at Talabat happened, there are 5 things that really happened. One is a recognition that the technology team, the product organization, isn't there to be the IT team. We're not a back office team where we receive Jira tickets and we say we're going to develop this requirement and that requirement. At the end of the day, because the product is what serves the company, the product is what serves the customer, the product isn't a support function. The product is what we present to the world. So the product is the business and it's at the heart of the business. And what we also have done, a second point, is that the product is also there to serve different parts of the organization, right? I would say that the only part of the company that we really haven't touched deeply is probably our legal team. But whether it's from finance and whether it's from our marketing, whether it's the way that we do sales and automation, the product and tech organization is really at the core of it. And that transformation took time, right? We have 4,500 employees in the MENA region itself, and so that transformation, area by area, function by function, really took time, right? Thirdly, we also started to instill an experimentation mindset in the company, right? What are we really trying to test for? What's our hypothesis? How do we find the smallest chunk that we can run with so that we can validate whether something's worth doing or not? We also instilled the concept of product discovery, which is, let's figure out if a problem is worth solving. Let's figure out if this is the best way. Let's figure out and make mistakes as early as possible so that we don't overinvest before we figure out whether this is the right solution to go. And this is not unique to tech. This is not unique to product. It's a mindset that needs to be applied and really propagated within an organization. And lastly, it's a conviction to build in the long term, right? We're a company that does millions of orders, and we're a company that runs 24/7. The ability to think long term in a scalable way, in a way that we don't have to pay a price in 2025 because of the poor decisions that we make in 2022 is very important. And so as a company, how do you build that culture of long-termism? How do you build that culture where it's really about doing the right thing at the right time so that you don't have to pay a debt in a significant debt in the future? So that's what I mean when I talk about product-led organization. It has very little to do with the fact that the product management team is in the company and they're the ones leading the company. It's not at all that, but it's this. It's a mindset, it's a culture, and building that culture takes time. And I want to share with you a couple of tips and tricks on our end that have helped us get there. One quote that I like to share is from a very prominent product thinker, Marty Kagan. Some of you may have read his book, Inspired, or more recently, Empowered. This quote really succinctly explains what we're trying to build here, right? We're trying to build a company culture of customer obsession that enables the team to serve the customers by creating products customers love, yet work for the business. And those are two very important components here, right? As tech people, as product people, we love building things. We're builders at heart. And we can spend days and nights building things that customers love, but does it move the business forward? And I would argue that for a company to truly be a product-centric company, the product thinking and the commercial thinking need to come together, where product leaders need to really think about how what they build, how the way that they do it, how the way that they go to market really moves the business forward as well. We're not just tech people for tech people's sake. So let me share with you a couple of things that have really worked for us and some examples of how we've transformed this culture. One that's a little bit recent, that went a little bit viral on LinkedIn, is what we call our research cards. So this here is a set of flashcards that we've produced for anyone in the company who wants to speak to customers. And we deeply believe in that. We believe that whether you're an engineer, whether you're a tester, whether you are a designer, whether you're a sales rep, that there are many things that you should go talk to customers about and validate whether they actually have this problem, whether the solution that you're thinking about actually solves for that problem. So we produce these cards. That's about 20 or 30 flashcards, right, that we've given to different team members in the organization, whether in digital or print form. And through this, they learn about how to set a stage when you meet a customer, how you use nonverbal cues to make customers feel better, how do you have icebreakers to break the conversation, how do you not use leading questions, how do you validate specific hypotheses by asking open-ended questions that let people get to their own conclusions. So investing in that thinking from the ground up to say, you're hired as an engineer, but your job is to go actually talk to customers to figure out what they want, is a very core part of bringing the customer to the heart of what we do. The second thing that we do is, at any given time, anyone in product and engineering is expected to answer this question in a very succinct way. If I stop anyone in the hallway and I say, when was the last time you spoke to a customer? The desired answer is no more than 3 months ago. Right? It should be last week. It should be 2 weeks ago. It should be, hey, we showed a prototype to a customer and this is what they say. It should be, hey, we ran this test and we didn't know why the results were what they were, but we called 3 customers and we learned from them, right? So our design, product, and engineering teams are obsessed over this. So, we have an amazing research team here in the Dubai office. They fly to our Cairo office very often to coach and mentor and really teach our teams the core fundamentals of product research and why it's so important to be able to speak to customers. We also take these conversations online and offline, right? Obviously, we prefer to speak to customers in person, but what about the hundreds of people in the company that may not have the luxury to have been there for the conversation? Well, we do what we call Insights of the Week on Slack, right? So whether for our groceries business or for our food business or for our logistics team, we share a lot of insights that we gained from our customers in our online channels, and that sparks a conversation. I think that's a very important part about building a culture from the bottom up. Lastly, I want to show a very perfect example of when we were building a product for a dine-in product. We actually worked out of the cafe, which is under our building. It's called Costa, right? And here what you see is you have a group of engineers, you have a group of designers, a product manager, the buyer, so the manager of the Costa store, the barista of the Costa store, and our commercial lead, all speaking to the customer about the product that we're about to build. And why do we do that? Someone might come and say, wow, isn't that a very expensive session? If you get 10 engineers out and about for half a day to speak to customers, like isn't that really expensive? What's the ROI of that work? And I'll tell you that ROI is priceless. Because when your engineers, when your designers, when your product managers get to see firsthand how customers struggle with your product, firsthand of what your customers struggle with, the next day when they show up to work, the next thing that they build is not a line of code. It's not a Jira ticket. It's solving a problem for a real customer and leveraging technology to do their best work. And that's what I'm here to share. And that's what I believe that all of us here, technologists and people passionate about building products, should care about. We're not here to just talk about tech. We're here to make sure that the lives of people who use our technology really get a better experience. So the results, let me share with you a couple things that that come out through this. This time last year, Expo 2020 was hosted in Dubai. And this is, an event that is once in a lifetime. We were told there's this big expo venue. We're going to have a cloud kitchen. Figure out what the delivery experience will be. At Expo, there were two main things that we developed. On the left side, we have an Expo app, right? Because this is an app that allowed you to go to our cloud kitchen to pick up food. Also had different pickup points around Expo. We also had a little robot. But why did we build the robot? Is the robot really the best way to deliver food for thousands of orders and thousands of customers in Expo every day? Probably not. But what we learned when we spoke to users, what we learned when we dug into the ethos of Expo, is that technology was there to serve delight. That the smiles on kids' faces, this is a dad holding the hand of his son, stopping a robot to talk to the robot, humanizing a technology that never existed before, showing to the community what is in the art of the possible. It's worth every dollar, and that's what we invested in, right? The second thing is what we did with Buy Now, Pay Later. You might say, why is a food delivery player building Buy Now, Pay Later? Well, we learned that for a lot of people, when they're right in the middle of the pay month, right? You might get paid on the 28th, right around the 14th or 15th of the month. You're a little tight on cash, and you might have a birthday party that you want to throw for your children. You might have groceries that you want to buy, and you're not very cash flow positive in that time of the month. Well, we want to be able to unlock that through our Buy Now, Pay Later solution. And we're the first food delivery player in the MENA region to have a Buy Now, Pay Later solution launch in the UAE on iOS and Android. And we're very excited that it actually solves a real problem for a good set of our customers. So I'll leave you with one final thought. That all of you here, builders, innovators, creators, obsess over your customers. That while we're walking down these halls and exploring really interesting tech, think about the real problems that we're trying to solve. Think about the customers at the end of it that will actually get to use your experience and figure out what exactly they would love. And I believe that if we invest in that, I believe that if we have that customer-obsessed mindset, if we build that in the MENA tech scene, I believe that we can truly move MENA forward through technology. So thank you so much for having me here today. It's been a real pleasure.